All right. Hello, 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 and welcome to the Cells and Circuits Tech News Stream for this week. I'm your host Chibeze, and we have some pretty big stories this week. Now now I know there was a huge event yesterday with Apple, but for the most part, I don't really cover Apple news mainly because of their refusal to support RCS mainly, and the damage that that has done to particularly American society. And so, um, but there is one story that I am going to cover tonight that does have to do with Apple. So I'm going to break that. I'm going to break that no Apple News rule temporarily. Um, but I also have some other news to talk about tonight. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and get started. So, the first story that I actually want to go over today, which this one just came this one just came out uh, earlier today, and that is Starfield now being available through NVIDIA GeForce Now. So, for those of you who don't know, which I'm guessing is very little of you, uh, Starfield is a game made by Bethesda Studios. It's their first new IP in 25 years, where you get to explore space and you get to um, do all kinds of things depending on which class you choose to play as. And or I just recently started it, so I can't really say. So I can't really give you too much on like what the story's about. I actually just want to play it for myself and judge it for myself and see um what the whole deal is about this game. But it's a pretty big release, and especially with it being Xbox exclusive on consoles. It wasn't available on it was available on cloud gaming through Xbox Cloud Gaming, but that was it. If you wanted to play it in the cloud, your only option was to play it on Xbox Cloud Gaming at 30 FPS because that's the same settings that the Xbox Series X has. And Xbox Cloud Gaming servers are made basically of Xbox Series X hardware. So now now that Starfield is officially available through GeForce Now, you can actually have, or you could potentially have a better experience than what console players are able to achieve, um, based on different tests done by outlets like Digital Foundry, um, and other outlets. But also just the fact that you have up to 120 frames per second available. I'm sure once um once Nvidia and once Microsoft um once Microsoft like adds in things like DLSS and adds in just many more optimizations to Starfield in regards to Nvidia cards, then I think we'll be able to see up we'll be able to see up to that 120 FPS mark. But for right now, I think honestly, just getting the game to run at 60 would probably be very good for a lot of people. And so NVIDIA GeForce Now, through the power of like what is it, 4090 cards that are available on the ultimate tier. Let me know if I'm off base in the comments or in the chat. But essentially, what you're able to do is you're able to get a better experience than what console or than what the Xbox Series X and S are able to provide. So that is just huge news all around. So props to Nvidia and props to Xbox and Bethesda for getting that done, and also props to props to the EU and the CMA as well. Because if that if that cloud gaming deal to get the Activision Blizzard acquisition through the finish line didn't happen, like this wouldn't happen right now. So um, I think the EU and the CMA definitely also deserve some credit here. But yeah, Starfield is available on GeForce Now, and I think that's awesome. Um, but let me know what you think of this. Do you think Starfield being on GeForce Now is a good thing? Would you have rather would you have rather it been exclusive to Xbox Cloud Gaming for some reason? Let me know. Let me know in the comments or in the chat. Definitely would love to know what you think. Um, and so next up, this is the Apple this is the Apple portion of the of the stream, because I'm not going to go over any of like the iPhone news, like because I don't really think all that much is upgraded besides USB-C. Um, but this is one interesting this is one interesting story to have come out of the Apple event. So, for those of you who don't know, there are some games that have come, or there are some games that are previously like reserved for only PC and gaming consoles that are now coming to the iPhone natively. And those games include Resident Evil Village, Death Stranding, Assassin's Creed Mirage, and Resident Evil 4 Remake. So all of those games will be coming natively to the iPhone 15 Pro series. So iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max are the only two phones that'll be able to play those games natively on the device. And I think this is good. I think with these Apple chips and especially ARM chips across the board, whether it's made by Apple, Qualcomm, MediaTek, Samsung, or what have you. Um, I think all of these ARM chips, like we've already been seeing um, performance that is either equivalent to or has outpaced things like laptops and is like encroaching on things like desktop PCs. So having AAA games like the four that I just mentioned coming to the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max is just more proof of that, really. We're starting to see games with like console quality graphics and resolution, and even frame rates in some instances to or we're starting to see those games coming to iPhones, so or smartphones really. So even like and I know it's going to take the competition a little bit to catch up. But I mean, soon I'll be able to play console games like Resident Evil Village, like Death Stranding, like Assassin's Creed Mirage, all on devices like this, like my Pixel 7 Pro. Um, and I think that's pretty awesome. But the thing with Apple is that all of their they have all of their products designed around ARM chips. So you have the iPhone, you have the iPad, you have now the Macs with Apple Silicon in them. You have what else? You have the Apple TV. Um, there are just so many products that Apple makes that are or that have ARM chips in them. So these games coming to the iPhone first means that they'll be able to scale up the performance once they make better chips um, to other devices. So I could see so for example, I could see games like these running at maybe like 60 FPS on like an iPad or a Mac, or maybe even 120 if they wanted to. Um, and I could definitely see something like this happen with the Apple TV. And heck, they could even position the Apple TV as like some sort of a gaming console if they wanted to. I mean, really, once the performance gets up there, or once they release a newer version of like the Apple TV with a chip that is either on par with or surpassing the A17 Pro that's in the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, like they could actually position the Apple TV as like a do everything device, similar to kind of how the PS5, and a little less so these days on the Xbox side of things, how they're positioning themselves as like general entertainment devices. So, like, I know in the Xbox One days, Microsoft definitely positioned the Xbox as this kind of, stream everything device, or even watch like cable on your Xbox or something like that. And it definitely cost them that generation. Um, but now I'm kind of feeling like they were ahead of the times, because if you look now, or now you have like the PS5 that's positioning itself as a do everything kind of device, like do streaming, gaming, and other things. So like really, Apple could definitely enter that conversation with these games like Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil Village, coming to a device like an Apple TV. Like an Apple TV could easily enter the conversation alongside a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. Um, yeah, the graphics may not be as strong, but those are, I mean, those ARM chips are only going to get better over time, and they're already more efficient than their x86 counterparts, which which like the PlayStation and Xbox run on. So I'm very interested to see what the future of this is. And I could definitely see Apple um, maximizing opportunity here um, with porting all of these console games to um, their A series of chips and even their M series of chips. So let me know what you think of this because I think this is really interesting. Oh, one other perspective that I didn't talk about was from a cloud gaming perspective. Because if you think about it, I think this is going to receive a lot more attention than cloud gaming is. Um, like, there's been quite a bit of focus on handheld gaming. Like, of course, it started all the way back with the Switch in 2017, and after that, we've been getting other handhelds, most notably the Steam Deck last year, which I've loved. I love my Steam Deck, and I don't think you're gonna have to pry that from my cold dead hands at this point. But you also have other devices, especially especially in the PC handheld space. Like you have the Asus ROG Ally, you have the upcoming Lenovo Legion Go, um, and then you have like all of the Ioneo, or you have all of these smaller companies developing handheld PCs like the Ioneos of the world and the AYNs of the world, um, and the like One X player and the AOK Zoe and just all of these other uh, handheld PCs. But then on the ARM side, you also have some devices like the Logitech G Cloud, the Razer Edge, um, and then you have like just regular smartphones with things like the Backbone One controller, which I actually love. I love the Backbone One controller. I think it's an awesome controller for Android and iPhone. But where I don't own an iPhone, so I can't really attest to that. But I love my Backbone, and it's a pretty awesome accessory for my Android phone. But anyway, you have all of these handheld gaming devices, um, and most of which can run games natively. Now, there are some that can't run games natively. Like for the most part, the Logitech G Cloud can't run games natively. It relies on cloud gaming, but even then, it can still run some Android games natively. It'll just be at very low settings because the chip in there is very um underpowered, if you will. But you also have like the PlayStation Portal that's coming out where that cannot run games natively at all. It actually relies on your internet connection to your household PlayStation 5. So and it can't even do cloud streaming from PlayStation Plus Premium. So, like that one is definitely a very, very niche case, but I can still see a market for it. I'm not saying there isn't a market for that. There definitely is. I'm just saying it's a pretty niche market. So anyway, what I can say from like a cloud gaming perspective is that I think native handheld gaming is going to get a lot more focus because there's definitely more innovation to happen there. as there's a lot of competition in that space, and especially with the EU's Digital Markets Act, where things like the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, um, they will no longer be, or they'll soon no longer be monopolizing the app market on each of their respective platforms. Then you have opportunities like say either Epic Games releasing their own store on Android and iPhone, or you also have Microsoft looking to introduce like an Xbox uh game store on on Android and iPhone as well. Um And so, like, there's going to be a lot, or there's going to be a lot to change in that particular market, especially where ARM devices are concerned. Now, as far as x86 goes, I mean, you still have you still have the Steam Deck, you still have the ROG Ally, you still have the Lenovo Legion Go, and there are going to be other manufacturers that throw their hat into the ring. And I'm sure there are also going to be some platform holders that may consider making a handheld of themselves or for themselves. Like one that immediately comes to mind is Xbox. I could definitely see there being a handheld Xbox um, at some point, maybe even utilizing the chip that the Series S uses, but just make it actually portable and actually and able to play games natively. Yeah, I could see that happening. Um I don't know if Epic Games is going to make their own handheld, or I'm sure they'll partner with somebody to make a handheld of their own so they can, get some of the revenue that way. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of competition, which breeds room for innovation, which, let's be honest, the cloud gaming sector isn't really experiencing a lot of innovation, especially ever since Google Stadia died. Um, I think Google Stadia was really the only, or well, it was the only cloud gaming platform at the time. The others are services, like GeForce Now, like Amazon Luna, like Xbox Cloud Gaming. All of those are services. At least I consider them services. Whereas Stadia was a platform, and they were actually introducing new things to games where or where they were kind of being innovative, such as you know, or you have state share where you could like play through someone else's game save at a certain point in the game, and then you had Stream Connect where you could see screens from other players' point of view when you're playing multiplayer and stuff like that. Um, you had like, or gosh, you had State Share, you had Stream Connect, you had Crowd Play, where you could actually play in the crowd. If you're on a YouTube stream like this one, if I was playing a Stadia game, I could actually invite you guys to join, and it was pretty awesome. It worked pretty well from what I saw. I tried it myself, but um, I wasn't very successful, mainly because I don't really have that big of an audience. But I'm sure people with bigger audiences had better success with that. Um, and and then crowd choice where like you could where the viewers of a stream could influence what happens in the game. Like all of those are just super innovative features. And like especially now that, Stadia is gone and those features are nowhere to be found on any other platform. Yeah, it really does feel like cloud gaming has lost its luster in terms of innovation, and I think that sucks. Um, but I think that's where something like this, or going back to the main topic at hand, I think something like this, like Resident Evil 4 remake and Resident Evil Village and Death Stranding and Assassin's Creed Mirage coming to the phone, I think that's really going to like cause a lot of innovation in terms of handheld gaming. That something like cloud gaming isn't seeing right now because of the death, or partly because of the death of Google Stadia. But let me know what you think of this. Do you think these games should come to the phone? If if these, or when these games do come to the phone, what other devices would you like to see these games come to? And what do you think it means for the future of handheld gaming? What do you think it means for the future of cloud gaming? Um, I definitely want to know your thoughts in the chat and in the comments if you're watching this on demand. But the next topic that I want to talk about is kind of a continuation of a story that I was talking about on the animation stream on Monday. So if you missed that, you could definitely watch that stream after this one. But it's or this topic is kind of a discussion on like the death of cable TV channels, and like, is it really going to be, or is it going to be expedited? Or how long do cable channels have until they're officially obsolete? Um, and so, what prompted this was the recent Disney Spectrum deal. So, for those of you who don't know, on September 1st, Disney channels were blacked out on Spectrum, but and they were blocked out for about what, 10 days or so, locking people out of their favorite like shows from the Disney networks, as well as sports from ESPN, because Disney owns that too. Um, but on the 11th of September, aka this past Monday, um, like the core Disney owned networks made a return to Spectrum. So things like Disney Channel, ABC, FX, um, and the local ABC owned TV stations as well. But there were a lot of channels that were excluded from that deal, including Disney Junior, Disney XD, Freeform, FXX, and others. So, and as a consolation prize, Spectrum owners got access to Disney Plus for free, and ESPN Plus for free, depending on their package. Um, but no Hulu, because Hulu would also have covered the gaps for like Freeform, FXX, and FXM, and other. and other Disney networks as well, because I know Disney XD has some shows that or that stream on Hulu as well. So yeah, so this kind of creates the question of, you know, what what is the future of these uh smaller cable networks? So like Disney XD, for example, is mostly a channel full of Disney Channel reruns. And then you have things like Freeform, where, I mean, yes, there's some original programming, but primarily what they show are like Disney movies, um, as well as reruns of like The Simpsons and sometimes Family Guy. Um, and then you have a channel like FXX, which is mostly reruns of um, former Fox cartoons like Family Guy, The Simpsons, King of the Hill, Futurama, um, as well as like some originals as well, like Archer um, and the recently departed Little Demon. Um, and so like when channels like this are removed from or just nuked from a a pretty big cable company, it limits their reach um in some cases. And Disney is kind of like just or Disney is one of like the main companies leaning in towards a streaming future, even though um the streaming bubble, I would say, has kind of burst already based on all of the moves that have happened in the past, I would say, year and a half or so. Um, but like now all of these networks have like significantly lower reach. It's about like what 20% of their reach is gone now, because Spectrum dropped them. Um, like, what does this mean for the future of those channels? Does a Disney XD or does a Freeform or does an FXX last a few more years, or maybe they'll shut some of these networks down to kind of reduce costs, or like what is the future of these networks? And really, I don't have an answer to that, because there are a lot of things Disney could do. Disney has tried to damage control this by reassuring the people who work on these networks that you know, their networks are safe, and that nothing's going to happen to them. But we've seen that kind of damage control song and dance before. Like, you know, remember when Cartoon Network said, "Oh, we're not dead, we're just turning 30." And then they ended up losing like 3 hours every day to Adult Swim. Yeah, I would say that's damage control. So like what is the future of like a Disney XD or Freeform or FXX? Because all of these channels, or they don't really have much that's new in terms of programming, especially something like FXX, where Like they're just now on the final season of Archer, but then like what happens after that, or they don't really have any new original programming for that channel um that has been announced for the future ever since Little Demon got forcibly removed from Hulu. So and then also Disney XD, which doesn't have any original programming whatsoever. They do have like third party stuff, like I think, or correct me if I'm wrong, I think the newest Yu-Gi-Oh series is on there. And then I think um Bakugan is going to come on there at some point, but yeah, there's no like Disney XD originals anymore. And I don't see them making any Disney XD originals anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, like, and especially now that like all of that programming that I mentioned is either on like Disney Plus or Hulu. Um, there's really, I mean, does Disney really have that much incentive to keep them around, or are they going to just like drop them like they've been doing in other countries with like Disney Channel and Disney XD and Disney Junior? Like they've been shutting down those channels in other countries. So could we actually see that happening in the US? Because they've managed to avoid that in the US so far. But could this move actually be the beginning of the end for some of these channels? I don't know, but we'll have to see as time goes on. But another point I want to mention is also just like, what about other companies? Will other companies employ the same strategy? Like if I'm like a Warner Brothers Discovery looking at this right now, we're like, huh, we can actually, or once our deal with like a Spectrum is up, I wonder if we can negotiate a deal like this and get our core channels still on those cable subscriptions, or still on those providers, while just removing the fat and like removing um some of the more premium channels. Like if I was someone working at like say Boomerang or something like that, looking at this deal, I would be pretty worried. Cuz what if Warner Brothers Discovery re-ups their deal with another provider and decides, "Oh, um it's not worth it to put something like Boomerang or like a Discovery Family or something like that on these cable providers. We can actually pay less and skip out on that. I think that's a very strong possibility that they could happen, or that could happen. Um, so I don't know. So I don't know what the future for these kind of smaller networks holds, but it's not looking good. Is the main thing, and that's unfortunate because for some of these channels, I really do like watching them. Now, I'm not a Spectrum subscriber. I actually have YouTube TV, so so I actually still do have access to things like Disney XD, Freeform, and FXX and stuff like that. But um, who knows? That could change. Um, that could change in like a few years or so, or maybe even next year or something like that. But we'll have to see as this kind of or as this develops um and like what does this also mean for like providers that that aren't attached to like cable or that don't have like hardware that you have to install like um YouTube TV or Fubo TV or something like Sling um or just any of the other internet-based live TV services. What does this mean for them? Could they actually negotiate a deal like this too? So there are a lot of angles to think about this from, but yeah, I'm interested in knowing your thoughts about what this means for cable channels. Is it the beginning of the end? Will those channels just be fine without Spectrum? Um, I'm interested in knowing your thoughts and opinions on that. Definitely let me know. But in the meantime, that's pretty much all I had for this stream. Not a whole lot of interesting stuff went on. Um, I will say, oh, um, yeah, I will say that that like you know I would cover or I would cover the Apple event, but just yeah, nah. I feel like there or one I just don't really feel comfortable in covering the dealings of a company that just um is responsible for a lot of things that are wrong with well, maybe not a lot of things that are wrong, but with certain things that are wrong with American society and just yeah. And then number 2, there's just not a whole lot that's new, regarding the new iPhones. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, all I had for you, today. If there are any topics that you wanted to discuss or any topics that you wanted or any topics that you wanted to actually, bring forward that I didn't get to talk about, that have to do with technology, definitely let me know. I'll be hanging out here. Um, I'll be hanging out here for another maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And I'll also be looking for other um, stories to talk about while we're here. But yeah, any questions, any comments? I'll go back and I'll go back and open up these um open up these topics for you to see. Um but basically what I talked about was basically um Starfield now being available to play on GeForce Now when it was exclusive to Xbox Cloud Gaming before, at least in the cloud. Um, Talked about Resident Evil 4 remake coming, and Resident Evil Village and Death Stranding and Assassin's Creed Mirage all coming to the iPhone and what that means for just handheld gaming in general. And then I also talked about um, like the Disney Spectrum deal and what it means for kind of like the smaller cable TV networks like the Disney XDs of the world or the Freeforms of the world or the FXXs of the world. Um, so so yeah, those were all that I talked about. If you want to or if you want me to go a little bit more in depth on any of them, or if you just wanted to chat about it, feel free to leave it in the or feel free to leave your comments um, or questions in the chat, whether it's on YouTube or Kick. Um, Feel free to do so. I'll be monitoring the chat um, at least for like maybe 10 to 15 more minutes. And if no one has anything, then um, I'm gonna get out of here. But yeah. Oh, all right. Oh, wait, no. Whoops. I was clicking on too many things and I am sorry about that. But let's actually, or there is one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that is the whole Unity fiasco that's been going on for the past day or so. So, for those of you who don't know, Unity is kind of an industry standard game engine, along with Epic Games' Unreal Engine. that is probably the biggest competitor to Unity, but Unity has introduced or will introduce what's called a Unity runtime fee that's based on game installs starting January 1st of 2024. Um, and what it means is that Unity will be charging a fee to developers um, based on how many times or based on how many players install their game. And what's and I think this is like really bad for especially indie developers who already have to give up like some of their profits to the platform holders like Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, Epic, what have you. They already have to give up a percentage um, of their game revenue, whether it's like 12% on the Epic store side, or if it's like 30% on like the Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo side. And then that's not even counting like mobile gaming as well, where both Apple and Google take out 30%. So so this kind of move just feels like price or it just feels very slimy to me. Um so if you have a very popular indie game, like every time someone buys and installs that game, like they get or the developer gets charged for it. And and so I think this is kind of dumb. It really like disincentivizes things like game demos. It disincentivizes things like free play days. And I think the price of games is just going to go up as if games weren't already expensive at like $70 a pop for like AAA games. Um, we could see indie games that normally go for like, $30, maybe go up to like 40 or something like that. Um, and I think that sucks for the both the consumer and the developers and publishers as well. Because I don't think they want to increase prices anymore, or at least some of them don't. There are some that do and would price gouge, but the vast majority of them don't. And I feel like this move will kind of force them to do that. Um, and it's just a bad situation all around. Um, and there have been some discussions on this on the platform formerly known as Twitter. Um, so like Unity, they've been like answering questions via Twitter. They've also been answering or they've also been having like this FAQ and stuff like that. Um, but what's interesting is that if a user or one thing I notice is that like if a user reinstalls or re-downloads a game or changes their hardware, will that count as multiple installs? and they say, "No, we're not going to charge a fee for reinstalls." So it's just the first install. Um, so at least that kind of softens the blow a bit, but not by much. And it's also kind of, or it also kind of, as as Bill from the Nerd Nest says, like it also kind of disincentivizes developers to optimize their games for like handheld PCs and stuff like that. Because, um, well, I mean, if they're or if they won't, or if they won't charge for reinstalls, then maybe like um, handheld PCs won't really matter all that much. Um, but like, yeah, things like demos and free play days are definitely going, or you're definitely going to see a lot less of those. And that sucks. That really does suck. Because I love having demos. It's either gotten me to play some really good games or has saved me money from buying bad games. Like one of the games that a demo saved me from buying was Balan Wonderworld back in 2021. Because that demo was just awful. And that um, and so Square Enix had the audacity to charge $60 for that game. And I was like, absolutely fucking not. I'm not playing or I'm not buying that game for $60 in the state that it's in. And it stayed in that state to the release. So I just ended up not buying that game. And I thank the demo for that. So devs being disincentivized to do things like demos really sucks. And for some devs, they may use that to their advantage, especially if they know they have a bad game coming out, um, where they just don't offer a demo and you just have to buy it um, to see if it's really or if it's good or if it sucks. Um, so yeah, not great. And then also, thankfully, charity bundles or are disqualified from the runtime fee. So both that and the reinstalls thing kind of softened the blow a bit, but again, not by much. And so and then also, why is it Unity's goddamn business what I do with the game that I bought and paid for with my own money? Like unit or that's nothing or that has absolutely nothing to do with Unity whatsoever. But anyway, I want to know what you think of this. Do you think this is a good move, or do you think this is a bad move that ultimately hurts the industry as a whole? And if you're a game developer who's using Unity on their project, I definitely want to hear from you. What is this news? Um, or what is the effect of this news on you? And are you going to use Unity in any of your projects going forward after this? Assuming they don't roll back these changes. Definitely let me know. But that is pretty much going to do it for this stream. If no one else has any comments or questions, I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and also just a reminder that we have our gaming stream coming up this Friday, or well, we have two gaming streams coming up this Friday and Saturday. So be on the lookout for those. And then also, the podcast is going to make a comeback on the 18th of this month. So right around the corner on Monday, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for the stream. I'm going to get out of here. And thank you for watching Cells and Circuits, the place for tunes, tech, and where both intersect. I'm Chibeze, signing off. Later. Have a good day.